Go. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. As we just noted that we have shifted. I would have said good morning, so thank you to the person who said good afternoon. I am Heather McGrail, the Membership and Community Partnerships Director at the Chamber, and you are at a CEO Roundtable. We have done this one other time. This is only our second virtual roundtable, so if you were able to attend with Kyle York as our speaker, welcome back. And if you were not, we're glad you joined us. So really this event is to provide an exclusive opportunity for business leaders to learn some expertise and also engage and interact, which we know is difficult right now to be able to really interact with others given our situations. So it's really a twofold goal with equally bringing speakers to you as well as providing opportunity to discuss and chat with each other, with your peers. We're going to be doing these once a quarter, and the email invitation, it is an email invitation. It is private. It is not posted on our public calendar. So you should be seeing this come through email. If you have having any difficulties with that, let us know. But since you're here, hopefully you received it okay. And I think really, if there are any other executives who you think would benefit from being involved in the virtual CEO Roundtable, please just reply to the post-event email and let me know. We certainly want to keep growing this audience and gathering together in this way. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to pop them onto the chat and we can monitor those that way. And also, if you have feedback after the event, please do reply to the post-event email so that we can hear your thoughts on this format, whether you find it valuable, and also if you have any recommendations for speakers or just overall topics, we'd love to hear those too, because again, this is a new programming that we are kind of bringing to the community, and you're somewhat guinea pigs. So thank you for that. And we love all the feedback. So our speaker today is Bruce Bolger, and he comes to us from New York. Forgive me, Bruce, because I forget where, but you can let us know what part of New York. But what's the beauty of this is that virtual, we can engage speakers from anywhere. So I love that. And that's how we're bringing Bruce to you today. He has over 30 years of management experience in engagement and business development, and is founder and president of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance, which you will see on his logo behind him, as well as the International Center for Enterprise Engagement. So we will include those links in the post-event email. He's going to highlight some concepts and trends today that relate to terms you all hear very often, such as stakeholder capitalism, human capital management, enterprise engagement, corporate responsibility, all of these terms that boil down to say a business needs to be focused on its people. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Bruce to give us a short presentation, and then we are going to go into discussion groups of 3. One last note, if there's somebody that you'd like to be with, just private chat me. As far as the discussion goes, if a face on this screen is someone you really need to connect with, just let me know and I'll do my best to make that work out. Okay. All right, Bruce, off with it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Heather, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you, everybody. First off, I'm located just north of New York City in Westchester County. And I must tell you, I'm a very big New Hampshire fan because I'm a hiker. And I think I've done almost every peak in New Hampshire, but I'm glad I wasn't on Mount Washington last night because I think it was something like minus 26 Fahrenheit last night with 102-mile-an-hour wind. So a little warmer in Manchester. Anyway, I'm going to give it to you in a New York minute, folks. And I'm pretty confident that no matter what type of organization you're in, if you are not already running your business this way, Heather and the team at Manchester Chamber have really introduced you to a super important topic. Because if you haven't heard about these issues of stakeholder capitalism and human capital management, you're going to be hearing about it a lot more, because it's literally becoming an imperative in business. Because people are our last bastion of value creation. We've tried Six Sigma, we've done lean, we've done agile, just in time, all those buzzwords, and yet employee engagement is still hovering in the 30 to 40% after 10 years. Manager engagement isn't that much better. Not very easy to manage your employees and engage them if your managers aren't engaged. And the simple question to all of you being CEOs is, imagine if every one of your employees and customers felt the same way about your organization as you do. That's not necessarily possible, but the closer you get to that, the more you're going to see bottom line performance. So essentially, enterprise engagement is a field that arose in about 2008 based on a whole bunch of research at Northwestern University, Harvard, and other schools that found that there is a strategic link, a causative link between having highly engaged customers, having highly engaged employees, and your financial results. And any of you who are in the service industry, restaurants or anything like that, hospitality, you know that, but it's less obvious for people in manufacturing. So what is this? It's the stakeholder capitalism movement. I'll explain in a second, but whatever you call it, it's an intelligent method for implementing human capital management reporting and ROI of engagement methods to enhance your organization's performance and stakeholder experiences. And it's using the same approach. Excuse me one second while I cough. It uses the same process to improve people management that quality management used in the 1990s. You might be familiar with ISO 9000 quality management. What it did was apply a strategic and systematic approach to the management of quality within the organization. And that systematic, proactive approach transformed quality management in the United States over a 10-year period. And what's in it for you? Well, it's that same question. Imagine if every stakeholder shared your passion. The results are multiple, but the clearest result is a better financial result, stronger market performance, higher market share, and for you, the CEO, I should say, or CFOs, less aggravation. A better employee experience translates into better customer experiences, fewer lawsuits, less aggravation. So it's not just a matter of getting greater enthusiasm for the for the leadership or more talent retention. It's about better financial results and better experiences. And just quickly, I've jumped ahead accidentally. So sorry, I'm going to make you dizzy here. But my computer here is jumping around. So sorry. So what is stakeholder capitalism? I think I skipped a slide there. There we go. It's simply a better way to do business. And in your breakouts, don't be ashamed if you've not heard the term stakeholder capitalism yet. But if you Google it, you're going to go, holy cow, all the big shots, all the in crowd is talking about this. There are all these councils of leading companies, the World Economic Forum, the Davos people, the Business Roundtable, McKinsey and Company, Ernst & Young. There are about 7 different councils of inclusive capitalism, association, a coalition of inclusive capitalism, B Labs. These are all organizations such as Conscious Capitalism that are all focusing on getting a better return for shareholders by creating value for employees, customers, supply chain partners, communities, and the environment. And those of you who are my fellow libertarians in New Hampshire, no, this is not about taking money from shareholders to give to stakeholders. It's not about telling shareholders, no, we're going to give you less because we're giving money to Black Lives Matter. No, it's about having a strategic and systematic approach to people to improve your results. And the Securities and Exchange Commission now requires human capital disclosures, and this was done under a Republican administration because they now believe that human capital is material to an organization. And if you are a CEO, you know what material means. It means that it's a fiduciary responsibility now. And that is pushing companies all over the world to take a strategic approach to people. The European Union now requires human capital disclosures of any company with more than 500 people. You're going to see more and more corporate responsibility reports coming out. These are reports that you'll see on the bottom of many websites. And I hate to tell you, folks, probably most of you are going to soon have to publish corporate responsibility reports because if your investors, your employees, your community, Your customers are going to want to know how you treat people, and they're going to want to know how you treat the environment. We focus on the S of this issue, social. It's ESG, you may have heard. Well, we're all about the social element of it. There's other environmental elements that we don't touch on. And this is so important now that if you do business with large companies and you get RFPs, requests for proposals, you start looking at them and you're going to see a tab saying sustainability. And they're going to ask you, especially if you're a bigger company, how do you treat people? They're going to expect corporate responsibility reports. So none of this forces you to be a stakeholder capitalism. This is still live free or die, folks. If you want to be stakeholder capitalist, shareholder capitalist, you can. But customers, employees, investors, and communities, 70% of them in a recent survey said they want to do business with companies that care about people. Sorry, I've got a very touchy computer here today. So what is stakeholder capitalism? It's simply a better way to do business that creates wealth for shareholders by creating value for customers, employees, your supply chain, communities, and the environment. And I already know that some of the 21 or so executives that are on this call are already running their business this way. They didn't call it stakeholder capitalism. You just know in your heart of hearts that if everybody is engaged, you're going to do better. And the competitive advantage is that only less than 20% of companies have a strategic approach to people management. Very few companies have dashboards that enable them to run their business based on their metrics. And you're going to be hearing more and more, and I'll actually, in the follow-up, send to Heather a little tool that you can use to measure your own human capital ROI, because the ROI that you get from your employees has a direct connection to your bottom line. And there's about 5 measures here. And again, you'll get the deck afterwards, and I'm always happy to talk afterwards with anybody who's interested or at a later date. But these are the measures that can have a direct connection here on the right side of your screen: revenues and profits per employee, human capital value add. That's another calculation you can do with a calculator based on your P&L. Diversity, equity, and conclusion success. It's not just about having diversity. Is that how effectively are you integrating different diverse communities into your business? Obviously, you're in an area that's predominantly Caucasian. You can't change that, but bottom line is organizations that are diverse do better financially, ironically. Training and development efficiency. It's not just about training people, it's training people for the right things. And then what is the ROI of your expenses related to sales and marketing, incentives, recognition, loyalty programs for customers, training and benefits, communications? Most companies don't realize these can be measured. And sorry, there is a direct link to your HC ROI and EBITDA. If you're worried about earnings, this is a chart that shows an organization whose their human capital ROI calculation. And again, I'll send Heather a little tool that you can use to calculate yours in about 2 minutes confidentially. And if your HCROI is headed down, you're not going to be hitting your EBITDA numbers. And in this example, the company just flattened out its HCROI. It stopped it from dropping, and it started doing better in terms of its earnings performance. So what's missing in most companies? The recognition that people are the last bastion of value creation. Many CEOs are driving with one eye on the road because they don't even know that their people investments in ROI can be measured, that you assume that your people costs are sunk costs. Well, that's changing. And in fact, very soon, you're going to start having your accountants telling you that you have to report on human capital because there's a whole new process called integrated reporting coming out that's gaining rapid steam. That means that beyond your financials, you have to show how you treat people, because leading banks and lenders have now determined that human capital mismanagement is the biggest cause, the biggest risk for a business. Failure to manage people, according to the Bank of America chairman, Brian Moynihan, leads to 95% of all bankruptcies and business failures. So this is it's not bright, shiny objects. It's not about putting a pool table in the lunchroom. It's a formal and strategic approach to achieving goals by addressing the interests of all stakeholders. And it actually saves you time, saves money, the same way that quality management principles did with quality. So what is enterprise engagement? It was developed in 2008, and it's the practical application of the principles of stakeholder capitalism at the front lines of your organization. And it conforms with new ISO standards, ISO 10018, people engagement, which is about aligning your audience's strategies and tactics with a clear purpose, culture, and goals and objectives. And I want to be clear, no one is going to make you do this. I would be against any laws that require that outlaw shareholder capitalism. It's the marketplace that's going to make you do it. So essentially, it's a process where you can identify your challenge and opportunity identification. What people challenge are you facing? And is it an overall brand issue, or is it more tactical turnover, safety issues? You then create the proper dashboard, just like you do in manufacturing or in any other type of wholesale logistics business. You create meaningful human capital dashboards. You make sure that every employee has a clear understanding of what that culture and brand stands for, and it aligns with the customer feels. And then today, folks, no matter how many employees you have, you can benefit from employee engagement technologies that are very inexpensive, much less money than CRM, customer relationship management. Excuse me. And these technologies can enable you on a real-time basis to communicate with your employees, no matter where they are on their smartphones, no matter what language they speak, whether they're well educated or not. You can communicate your values, your key metrics. You can reward and recognize people. You can assess them. You can measure diversity and innovation, and you can tie it to your bottom line. So it's really all about, at the end of the day, it sounds like a nicer way to run business, but it's a smarter way. So going through this very quickly, we're just doing the same thing that ISO standards did for quality manufacturing. If any of you remember the 1990s, our quality in this country was terrible, and it is now quite good because we applied a strategic and systematic approach. And the same thing is for the way you manage all of these different things. Many of you might do assessment surveys. You might call in speakers to do leadership training. You might have recruitment and diversity strategies, compensation, communications, training, innovation, rewards, analytics. Companies do all of these things, but they usually do them in silos. They do them in a very haphazard way, very ad hoc, and they wonder why their employee engagement doesn't go up. And then they say, well, we shouldn't call it employee engagement anymore. Let's call it employee experience, because employee engagement didn't work. So essentially what you can do in the process that we use when we help clients, and these are things just like total quality management, you can do it yourself. If you know how to do it, you can implement it yourself. You don't necessarily need to have a consultant or an advisor. But essentially, you take a look at every single thing that you're doing: culture, leadership, recruitment. How do these align? Are they in silos? Are you doing them in an ad hoc way? Or do you start the year with a business plan and then implement? And so against each one of these tools that you might be doing, are we measuring the ROI? Are we measuring whether it's supporting our brand and culture? What percent of it is digital? Everything today should be as digital as possible. The pandemic is going to go away, but work from home probably is not going to go away. And you're going to benefit from the fact now that in Manchester, you can hire talent in Germany, perhaps, right? Because you might have an expert person, because now with Zoom or equivalent technologies, distance is going to be different. And then how well are we sharing information? And then is the CEO committed? And so I say to each one of you on this call, if you're not committed to this, it will fail. You can't farm out leadership to your HR office. In fact, I hate to say it, that's probably the last place you want to put it, because in many times HR is compliant. So it's now possible with technology to lay a cable into the hearts and minds of every stakeholder and to build an ongoing relationship with them and use real-time data to measure the results. And you can actually have a dashboard for your company, just like you would have in manufacturing, that shows how well people are aligned, the productivity of your employees, the quality of your employees, the extent to which they buy into your purpose, and then the type of metrics that you can measure to see whether you're going to do better. And a great example of a great case study, many of you remember Best Buy. They were getting creamed by our friends Amazon. Well, a guy named Hubert Joly was brought in who really believed in the principles of human capital and of enterprise engagement. He established the Renew Blue Plan, and they developed a whole new brand proposition. They started with that. It always starts with your brand proposition. And yes, they had to cut staff and salaries, but he cut not the employees, he cut top management, and he put that money into employee pay and training and new incentives. And the Renew Blue results were incredible. The company achieved well over $250,000 in annualized cost reductions, a significant improvement in profit, and their operating profit dramatically improved. So just wrapping up here, I'm taking you through something very quickly. It's not a difficult process to implement. You have to identify your challenges. What specific issue are you facing? You then need to benchmark what you're doing, so you have clear measures so that you can measure performance, just like in manufacturing. You definitely want to look at some sorts of technologies or ways to integrate and align how you're training and communicating with people. And then, of course, developing that gap analysis plan and in implementing the communications, learning, leadership, rewards tools that are going to help you get your goal. And so the way to get started with this, we're very limited on time, so I'm going to end with this, is that you can get started by identifying a critical issue or challenge and applying that framework that's in this deck to develop strategy, tactics, and measurement that will help you achieve your goals. And finally, we offer a whole lot of free services, free information. Sadly, you don't need to hire us. You can learn how to do this on your own. We're there to help, of course, but you'll see on this website on my last page here, lots of useful information for you that Heather will share after this call. So Heather, I wanted to do that real quick. I hope we got that done quickly enough, and I'm going to stop the share if I possibly can. I think I did.
Great.
So I'm going to bring it back to you, Heather.
I think that was definitely a New York 15, 20 minutes for sure. A lot of content, Bruce. Thank you so much. And we can even include the slide deck, I'm sure, in the follow-up. Are you okay?
I will send you the slide deck and links to other information.
Great. So we'll definitely have a full resource diary or library when we send you the event email. And I know that we had some specific questions, Bruce, that we were going to ask for the discussion groups that we're about to break into. Did you want to deliver those? I think it was identifying obstacles on the way for the journey of human capital, but also the second question is, does your organization have clear human capital metrics?
Correct.
Right?
That's right. So the thing to discuss is, if you'd like, and I'll be happy to join one of the groups and listen and answer any questions, but it's really to ask yourself, do you have a strategic, systematic approach to managing your people? Are you doing it from your heart, or are you doing it from your mind? And I think the best results will be both. And you'll know whether you have a strategic approach if you have clear metrics. And lastly, don't feel bad if you don't, because most companies don't, and most big companies don't. I would say no more than 5 to 10% of companies get it. You have a market basket near you, they get it. You probably have a big Y near you, they get it. JetBlue, I think, flies into Manchester, they get it. Southwest Airlines flies into Manchester, they get it. And I'm sure a bunch of the people on this phone call get it, but they may not. You may get it in your heart, but you may be going, you know what, I'm not as disciplined about this as I should be, and I'm not measuring the results.
Okay, great. So none of you made requests for who you wanted to go with. You're a super easy group. You all like each other. Love it. So I'm going to send you off now for about 20 minutes, and we'll call you back in. I'm happy discussing. We have Joe and Nicole still with us. Hi, Cole. I'm just trying to make sure nobody is alone. Looks okay. Except for,
How many groups did you break it into?
What's odd is that it looks like Mike's by himself somehow. Hold on, let me see if I can pop him into room 6. I don't know why that is. I think what happened is somebody popped off during the discussion part, and so it ended up that the
Messing up the numbers.
Yeah, it must have been the one in the 2-person room. So suddenly Mike was alone. Let's see. We got 3 in that one, 3 in that one. Room 3 now has nobody. Okay, I guess that's what happened. 3 in that one, 3, and then looks like 3. 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? I think so. It's always a fun part for me. But at least there weren't any individual requests, so that's kind of nice. And we've still got Joe hanging out with us. Can you hear us, Joe, or did you step away? You must have. I guess I can stop recording as well. That'd be nice of me.